Hey everybody, it's Ariel, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how exactly I was able to get the $15,000 bio grant from the city of Denver. So let's jump on in because I know you guys are excited and I want to share all the details and keep this video as short as possible. So first thing I'm going to do is share my screen. And I'm going to first start with the email that I got. Now, I got this grant in 2022. And my business, Easy Tax Enterprises, which is also Easy Tax Denver, was awarded $15,000. We did have to provide certain documentations after we received this award letter, but I just wanted to show the proof of the pudding because we got our award letter in 2022, but our grant wasn't actually funded until 2023. Based on timing, it was December. So with that being said, let's start with the program because the grant is now open. It opened up officially again on May, I think it was sometime last week. And it's only open until June 2nd. So this is like a get it while it's hot. They have, I can't remember how much money they have in total, but we'll be able to click through and find that out in just a second. But you're able to get up to $15,000, and we again got the 15K. Okay, so let's start out by first talking about the actual organization. This grant is with the city of Denver, and Mile High United Way is actually helping to disperse the grant. This money stems from $5 million that the city of Denver was awarded from the federal government through the American Rescue Plan Act. Okay, so this is federal funds that got awarded to the city of Denver, and then they're getting dispersed to small businesses. So in total, they got $5 million. Okay. And so that's a lot of grants. If you're talking about $5 million into $15,000 grants, it's a lot of grants for small businesses. Okay. The whole purpose of the grant is to help small businesses recover from COVID and to just really help our economy. So there's actually three different buckets. I think actually four now. They added a new one in here. So the first one is the acceleration grant. Okay. So this is for businesses that started their business at the beginning of the pandemic, and then they experienced challenges related to being a business that started during the pandemic. Okay, so a lot of businesses that started during the pandemic were not able to access funding because they weren't, they weren't active prior to COVID. And most of the grants that were out there were saying, hey, you had to show us that COVID actually impacted your business. Well, this program is helping those individuals who still were impacted. They just didn't have history pre-COVID to show that impact. So this is an awesome program. So the next grant is the activation grant. And this is actually the one that my small business got. This grant allows you to use the funds to be able to open up a location in these specific corridors. So my business is located, we actually have one location in Denver. We did a franchise and opened up a second location in the Montbello area. And so in order for your business to qualify for the activation grant, you have to open up in specific corridors, and you can use the funds for either a lease or security measures. And we'll get more into that in a second. The next one is the anti-displacement grant. This is for if your business was impacted by construction or if you need to relocate. Again, Mile High United Way, they are such an awesome organization. They help businesses and individuals all around the nation. This program is going to be run by their division called United for Business. And one of the great things about this specific grant is if you need help, you need one-on-one assistance, you can actually go to Mile High United Way and they will help you. You can give them a phone call, you can set up a virtual appointment, you can do an in-person appointment, you can walk right in. They are there. They're located at 711 Park Avenue West, and their UFB, United for Business team, is all about making sure that businesses that need this support are able to get it. Okay. So that being said, again, I recommend that you go through these different criteria because there are some eligibility requirements. I'm going to cover the eligibility really briefly because again, as you do the application, these questions will come up, but it's a good thing to just know what your eligibility is. So you have to have one of two criterias. You have to meet one of these two, okay? The first one is that your business has to be within what's called the neighborhood recovery. You need to be pre-qualified as within an area that has a 0.89 index score within the neighborhood recovery map. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring this up so you can see exactly what that looks like, because this is really one of the most important parts of the application. So the first thing that you need to do, I want to note too that this map can sometimes be a little bit tricky. So the first thing I would recommend is just really looking at the map, because what they're focusing in on is the neighborhoods that are in dark blue, medium blue, and even light blue. If they look like they don't have any blue at all in them, they probably are not going to be in a recovery zone. So you're going to need to type the address in. The address of my new office that we were able to get the grant on is 4730 Oakland Street. So you can see when you zoom in, it's in a dark blue area. And the whole idea is we need to be able to see, like I said, this map can be a little finicky, but if you click here where your actual button is linking, then it'll say one of two. You'll go to the second slide and it'll give you the full index score. So the application criteria is that your score needs to be equal or less than 0.89. And you can see that the full index score of the neighborhood where my business is 0.77. So I've met that criteria. If you are in an area where your score is over 0.89, you can still be eligible as long as your NAISC code is one of these. So the best way to determine what your NAISC code is to just Google it. And so what I like to do is I either will bring up the website or I can actually bring up the different business. So we do tax preparation. And so our code is 541200. So theirs says that you need to at least be one of these ones. So you can see my code didn't qualify, but I qualified because I was in one of these zones. So if you get both, it doesn't give you extra points. If you have neither, you can't apply at all. You need to just have one of these criteria met, okay? So in addition to that, you need to be in good standing with the Secretary of State. And the best way to find that out is just to go to the Colorado Secretary of State. You can search your business name, and mine is Easy Tax Enterprises LLC. And you can see here when you click the ID number, it should stay good standing here. If it is not in good standing, then you'll need to file your periodic report. Okay. And there's tons of videos on how to do that. If you do need help with that, you can always reach out to me and I can assist you with that as well. But it's a really, really simple process. Depending on how long your business has not been in good standing, the price can change, but it's typically around $10 to $60 to file your periodic report and get your business in good standing. Okay. So once you are in good standing, you'll just want to download that certificate of good standing because you'll need it for the application. And it looks a little like this. Just download that, save it to your computer. And then there's a couple things to note, right? If you're applying for the acceleration grant, which most businesses I think are going to fit into this category, you really want to pay attention here. So I'm actually going to read this whole section out and then we'll talk about how you can put these pieces together. Again, I did not apply for the acceleration grant, but I do want to cover this because this is probably where most people are going to qualify, and this section is going to be really important, okay? So the very first thing is that your business must have begun operations between March 12th, 2020 and July 1st, 2021, okay? So you can actually tell the date of your business where you actually started your business in your Secretary of State record. You want to make sure that you put the same date that's here on your application, because again, whenever you created the business, that's going to be your official start date. And this is public information. And so when they review the grants, they're going to be checking this record as well. You want it to align, okay? After you have determined that your start date matches, you're going to have to demonstrate a 10% decline in revenue using a 90-day consecutive and up to 12-month revenue period, comparing your financial projections created prior to that period to your actual operations. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that they want to know what you were projecting your revenue to be. And that's something that you typically do when you're starting a business. You'll create financial projections to say, hey, this is how much I believe I'm going to earn. This is how much I think it's going to cost me to earn this money. These are expenditures that I'm going to have to incur in order to operate my business. Okay, then you're going to compare those to what actually happened. Typically, the hardest part of grant applications, especially for-profit businesses, is making sure that the financial documents are together. Okay, so whatever period that you do choose, you want to make sure that it actually does show that 10% revenue loss. If you're applying for the activation grant, again, this is a grant that I got approved for, your business has to be located within a quarter-mile radius. So that's within 0.25 miles of these intersections, okay? So ours is located here at the intersection of 47th and Peoria. I can literally, within 5 minutes, be touching, within a 5-minute walk, be touching 47th and Peoria. You want to be in the same vicinity for these different areas. And so what I recommend doing is just Googling your business and seeing if it fits into any of these areas. If you're wanting to start or activate a new business in these areas, you can use a website like CoStar, Crexi, LoopNet. All of these are commercial real estate finders so that you can find a space for your business within these areas. The really great thing about this, a lot of these areas, is that their commercial real estate is rather inexpensive because these are up and coming areas, okay? And then again, if you are applying for the anti-displacement grant, you need to basically be able to show that your business experienced a 10% revenue loss during the construction. So you're going to show what your pre-construction revenue was, and then your during construction revenue to show that those are kind of the initial criteria. Let's get into the application so that you guys can actually see the types of questions that the application is asking and what you need to fill out to be able to get it going. Okay, so in order to start the application, you'll just press this button. You have until June 5th at 5 p.m. Okay. When you log in, again, I've already filled out the application, so I'm going to just show you the application that I did submit. The first thing is that you're going to have to press continue here. What you're acknowledging when you press continue here is that your application is going to be public record. Anytime that you're doing things with governments, especially going after grants, they abide by what's called CORA, the Colorado Open Records Act. And so at any time, someone can request your grant application if they wanted to see it. And maybe they wouldn't request yours specifically, they could request all of them, and it would be the city of Denver would have to provide that to them. So you're just recognizing that when you agree here. And the very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to fill out your profile. Okay, so they want to know your point of contact, your email address, your phone number, your business name, the actual address. Again, we started out at our other office, but we ended up opening up here. So this is why this is not the Oakland Street. We're using our other location, our website, the industry, and how many employees that we have. So I have a whole new portal because I cannot access the application that I was awarded. And so we're just going to actually go through and see what the questions look like. You got 21 days as of today to get this application done. Okay. So the very first thing that you need to do, again, I would really recommend reading through this because it's going to tell you what all you need. Okay. So if you have not done your 2022's taxes yet, you need to start there. And again, That's what I'm here for. Bookkeeping, tax, accounting, that's all of the things that I specialize in. So if you need assistance with getting your taxes done to apply for this grant, please reach out to me. I would love to help you, okay? Again, it says you're going to need your Colorado Secretary of State. If you need help filing your periodic report, definitely you can either call this number, or again, it's something that I can assist you with. The next piece is that you just need to, again, have your budget versus actuals for the acceleration grant and then the anti-displacement grant. Now, it's very interesting. I do want to note that just because you fill out the application does not mean that you're going to get the award. So just keep that in mind, that it is a selection process, but you can't win if you're not in. That's what they say about the lottery, right? Mile High United Way and the city of Denver have awarded many people the grant, so you definitely have a good chance of getting it. But to improve that chance, you want to just make sure your application is filled out correctly. So the first thing that you need to do is fill out, again, your contact information. If you have a DBA, you want to make sure you enter that. They're going to ask you, are you within the recovery zone, or sorry, the recovery index zones? So that was where we checked that map. You want to make sure you answer this question based on what you were able to find using that map. Okay. From there, you're going to actually put in your location, and then you're going to put in your NAISC code. It's going to ask you yes or no. Do you have one of the codes based that the application grants, or that fits the application criteria? You're going to have to press yes or no. And then if you are one, it wants to know which one. Sorry, yeah, you have to put your code here and then yes or no if you fit the criteria, okay? They want to know when your business became operational. If it's not operational yet, you're maybe going after the activation grant. You need to put when it will be, how many years you've been in business. Again, this is a drop down, so you'll just pick one of those. And then your business type, either independent, franchise, corporate. You want to tell it whether or not you use an EIN number or your taxpayer identification number or your social security number to file your tax returns. And then you'll put in that number here, whichever one you choose. And then you also need to say, is this a multi-generational business? You're going to tell it whether or not you rent or own your location. If you don't have a location because you're a startup, you want to put startup. And then it wants to know about your employees. A lot of these questions are for them to kind of gather data, because again, they have to report back who they gave the money to the federal government. And so they're keeping track of kind of demographics with these specific questions. So answer them as accurate as possible. Those ones are pretty simple, okay? It also wants to know, have you received other income or other grants? This does not affect your business's ability to apply. The only one is if you have gotten this grant before, you can't get again. So that's really important to remember, is you can only get this grant one time. So if you do select BioFund, you are not going to get selected because you cannot apply for this grant twice. So make sure you're honest about any of these funds that you received, again, because they do want to know how small businesses have used these programs to be able to revitalize, okay? This is where it gets, again, we get out of the demographics and now into the application and actually telling it the data that it's requesting. So it wants to know what your gross revenue for the 2022 tax year is, okay? And so I'm just going to bring up a blank 2022 tax return because I want you guys to be able to see where this information would be, okay? So for most of us, if you have an LLC and you're not operating as a S corporation or a C corporation, you're probably filling out what's called Schedule C, okay? And on that Schedule C, your income, your gross income is going to be here in Part 1 on line 1. So that's what you're going to put here on the application, is the number that was from your tax document, your Schedule C here. Okay, and then you need to upload that Schedule C as well. So they accept the Schedule C or the P&L. So if you haven't done your taxes, it's not the worst thing in the world. Or demographic information telling us who you are, if you identify in any of these following groups, you definitely want to let that be known on your application. You want to let your language be known. Let them know that you're the business owner. Now, if you select, based on what you select here, the application is going to change. So if I select acceleration grant, it's going to be different. I'm going to be asked different questions versus if I were to select activation or anti-displacement. Okay. Let's just go with acceleration. Like I said, I did activation, but I feel like the majority of people that are going to apply for this grant are going to go for the acceleration. And so I'd rather make this video focus on where the majority are going to apply. If you're going to do activation or anti-displacement and you find that you need assistance, please reach out to me because I can help you as well. Okay. So the first thing that it asks is if you want help filing the application, you can press yes, I would like assistance. And then you'll need to save it as a draft and someone will reach out to you. You're going to have to do this at least 3 days prior to the grant closing. Do not wait until the day of the closing to request assistance. If you need assistance, do it before, and someone from Mile High United Way will reach out to you, okay? And they'll help you walk through the whole entire thing. They are so awesome, and they will definitely make sure that you know all of the information that you need to submit. Okay. From here, you're just going to go through and answer all of these questions. So we'll start with the projected revenue. Okay, so typically small businesses will put together revenue projections. I'm going to show you mine. Cool. So here is my pro forma budget. This is also known as a projected financials. And I actually use this specific pro forma for my grant application. I did mine on an annual basis. You can do it on a monthly level if you want. But here is the total revenue that we projected for 2023 at the new location. Again, we have franchise going on. So we've got one location performing in this way. It's a newer one. So we were more conservative on our estimations of what we were going to earn. But here you can see I did a 3-year pro forma, and I was able to provide the different levels of income, okay? And then the total revenue, and then the actual cost, so that you can see the net income. So 2023's net income isn't very high, but it gradually increases. And this was good enough for me to be able to apply for the grant. So I would recommend you doing your pro forma in Excel or Google Sheets, something like this, where you show all the different ways that you're going to make money for the year, and you estimate what your expenses are going to be. The estimations do need to be accurate, so do your research. Don't just put numbers in here. You know, you want this to be as close as possible because it's going to serve you as well. Okay, so here's the section for the projected revenue. So it wants to know what is your total projected revenue for the actual, so projected revenue expected to be earned by your business at this location. So I would put the projected revenue, and you want to make sure that you put the specific period. So this could be Q1, and you're going to put the year. So you can see that this is in the past. So it's kind of like, well, how am I making projected revenue for 2020? Well, typically you should have already done it. Then what you need to do is provide your actuals. So this is where you're going to need the bookkeeping piece. Again, I applied for the activation grant. So this was for a startup business, meaning I did not have to provide actuals because we were starting. But in this case, if you're going for the acceleration grant, you are going to need to show your financials, okay? And so this is where having QuickBooks is going to be really helpful. If you don't have QuickBooks, you could always pull your bank statements and just add up all of your deposits, because that's what it's really asking for, is your gross revenue. And then you just need to tell them about the actual period that you're reporting on. Okay. So what it's going to show is that it has to show, it'll calculate. So let's just put something in here. Let's just say that my projection was, I'm just using 2023's number. I know that this has to be either 2020, 2021, or 2022, but I'm just going to put 16,000 was our projected revenue. And we'll say Q1 of 2021, or we could say the whole year if you wanted to. I think it's personally easier to do the whole year because, again, running your profit and loss on a quarter might make it harder, but I understand why they did that, because again, if you maybe haven't done your whole bookkeeping, because again, sometimes bookkeeping can be tough. It's easier to do 3 months of bookkeeping than it is to do a year. So if you're in that position where you just are behind on the bookkeeping, you actually haven't done it, you can just use the quarter and be able to compare. So let's just say that the actual revenue ended up being 14,000. And again, you have to compare the same period. So if you choose annual here, you need to put annual here, okay? And then you need to choose 2020 here as well. It will actually automatically calculate your revenue decline and your percentage. This needs to be more than 10. If it's less than 10, they will automatically throw your application out, okay? So make sure that that says more than 10, and then you can just put in here a sentence. I am comparing the total revenue from 2020, my actual versus my projected revenue, okay? Now, they want to know how you're going to spend the money. If you decide that you want to use it for rent and utilities, that's going to be how you have to use the money. So now they want to get a little bit more financial documentation for you. You know, no one knew that the pandemic was going to happen. And for most of us, when we are starting a business, you may have even just jotted it down in a notebook. It's okay to take those notes and put it into a spreadsheet, but it does need to have been created before the pandemic. Okay, your projections need to have been created before the pandemic. And then again, you're going to compare it to what actually happened during the pandemic, okay? You can even do a sales forecast, even if you just had it kind of scribbled down on a notebook. You can use those numbers that were there and put it into a spreadsheet if you want, so that it's nice and clean for them to read, okay? Another way, these are all options. So you can do a sales forecast, you can do an income statement, you can even do the documents that you used to start your business. So maybe you had an agreement with your supplier, maybe you had signed a lease, maybe you opened up a bank account, maybe you applied for a loan. All of those things are going to show that you had a plan in 2020. So any documentation that can show, you know, that it was created in 2020 is going to be the best, okay, to really support that. And then again, you need to make sure that it shows at least 90 days consecutive, or an annual revenue as well, okay? If you're stuck, again, you can always ask for assistance and they can help you figure out what documentation is going to be best, okay? The last part of the application is also really important, because they've got a lot of resources that can help small businesses. That's what Mile High United Way does. And so if you need more help or more support, you can let them know that, hey, I need immediate assistance because I'm facing possible eviction. I need legal assistance. Or if it's not immediate and you just want to cover any of these areas, bookkeeping and accounting is one of them. Don't forget to mark that as well, okay? You got to provide your Secretary of State record. You got to agree to these different pieces, and then you're going to want to mark it as complete. You may not be able to do all this in a day, so don't hesitate to save it as a draft, because if you mark it complete, you're not able to go back to it. But again, this application is relatively easy. I am just going to switch over to the activation tab so you guys can see that the questions do change. And so again, you want to be mindful of which application you choose and really do the one that fits the best, okay? I think the hardest part about the acceleration grant is that you do have to prove that those projections were made before the Again, Mile High United Way is awesome. They're there to help you. If you do need assistance with your bookkeeping, I'm here to help as well. I'll drop my information in the link below, but I really want you guys to apply for this grant because, like I said, I got it and it really did help me to expand my business. You can use it in so many different ways, whether you want to activate and start a new business or you want to be able to, accelerate the business that you already have. This grant is the one for you to apply for. So until next time, you guys take care.